program is the Active Center.
You know, California's housing crisis, it's way more than just sticker shock when you're scrolling through Zillow. It's a battleground, really, for two fundamentally different visions of the future. So today, we're going to jump right into that debate, breaking down the arguments from Governor Gavin Newsom and President Donald Trump to try and understand their proposed fixes for one of the biggest problems in America. All right, let's just start with one number, a really big number, $887,000. That's the median price for a single home in California. And that one figure, well, it pretty much defines the entire crisis. And it's what's driving the urgency behind this whole debate. Now, to really get a sense of what that number means, that $887,000, it's not just high. I mean, look at this. It's more than double the national average, which is sitting around $426,000. That's just how extreme the gap has become. And this absolutely staggering price tag, well, it's causing what a lot of people are calling a middle-class exodus. It's pushing families, workers, all kinds of people right out of the state just so they can find something affordable. This is the core problem that shapes every single argument we're about to get into. So, okay, how do you even begin to fix a problem this huge? Well, the answer really depends on who you're talking to. Let's dig into the two central figures in this whole thing and see how their core beliefs shape every single move they make. And this is really where you see the two paths just completely split. On one side, you've got Governor Newsom, whose approach you could call progressive interventionism. That's the belief that, hey, the market is broken and the state has to step in, right? With money, with rules to fix it. And then you have President Trump's philosophy, market-driven deregulation. This is the complete opposite idea. It's that government is the problem, not the solution. So you got to cut taxes, slash regulations, and just get out of the way of the free market. Understanding these two worldviews, that's the key to everything else. Right, so before you can even talk about a solution, you got to agree on what caused the problem in the first place. So let's look at where each leader places the blame for this crisis. Okay, so for Governor Newsom, his argument really boils down to simple economics. He puts it like this: the housing crisis is a direct result of simple supply and demand physics, warped by exclusionary zoning. For him, it all comes down to one thing. California just has not built enough homes, period. And digging a little deeper, he points his finger at a few specific things that are choking off that supply. You've got decades of local resistance, what we call NIMBYism, or not in my backyard. There's the failure to build housing where the jobs actually are. And then there are these zoning laws that he sees as historically restrictive and designed to keep people out. President Trump, on the other hand, sees this from a totally different angle. He doesn't see this push for more density as a solution. He frames it as an attack on a certain way of life. He says what Gavin Newsom calls equity, I call the destruction of the American dream. For him, the diagnosis is simple. It's government. Full stop. He blames just layers and layers of excessive regulation, what he calls the most expensive and time-consuming approval process in the entire world, and this constant overreach from the state that he believes basically smothers any new construction before a single shovel can even touch the dirt. So you've got two completely different diagnoses of what's wrong. And no surprise, that leads to two completely different blueprints for how to fix it. Let's see what those plans look like. And this table really breaks down where they disagree on what's making it so darn expensive to build in the first place. President Trump, for example, he'll point to things like local permit fees and California's really strict green mandates as huge cost drivers. Governor Newsom, on the other hand, he'll highlight things like federal tariffs, which actually drove up the price of materials like lumber and steel. So Governor Newsom's solution, it's a very top-down, state-led strategy. The plan is to mandate more dense housing, especially near public transit. He wants to streamline the state's powerful environmental review process, known as CEQA, pour billions of state dollars into the problem, and this is a big one, actually hold local cities accountable if they don't meet their housing goals. And President Trump's solution is pretty much the exact opposite. It's not about adding things, it's about taking them away. The idea is to aggressively cut all that red tape, open up unused federal land to developers, get rid of costly federal regulations, and then just step back and let the free market and private builders take it from there. Okay, so this isn't just some abstract theoretical debate, right? Let's bring this down to earth with a real-world example, the incredibly slow, painful effort to help families rebuild after those devastating wildfires back in January of 2025. So you have to ask, why are families still stuck in trailers 10 months after losing everything? Well, according to Governor Newsom, it's external forces, endless battles with insurance companies, and major delays in getting federal aid from FEMA. But President Trump says no, the blame lies with internal state issues, mismanagement, and these expensive green building codes that he says make it just plain unaffordable for people to rebuild their own homes. And really, when you get down to it, this whole debate is about more than just policies and zoning laws. It's philosophical. It's about what kind of life these leaders are actually trying to build. What exactly is the dream they are fighting for? And that brings us to the biggest question of all, the one that's really at the heart of this whole thing. What is the California dream today? Is it about everyone having access to the city and living closer together? Or is it still about having your own home with a little privacy in a patch of grass? For Governor Newsom, that dream is all about equity and access. His vision, in his words, is about, quote, giving a nurse, a teacher, or a firefighter an affordable place to live without a 2-hour commute. It's a modern, more urban vision, and it's focused on making sure essential workers can actually live in the communities they serve. For President Trump, the dream is something much more traditional. He argues that the people of California want that single-family home. They want the yard, the privacy, the safety. So for him, the vision is really centered on that classic suburban American ideal. So we have these two very different, almost philosophical visions. But that brings us right back to the most practical question there is. Which one of these ideas is actually going to deliver affordable homes faster? So let's boil it down to their final pitch, their closing arguments, if you will. Governor Newsom says the fastest way is to force the issue, build supply using the power of the state to invest money and mandate construction. President Trump says, no way. The fastest path is to just get government out of the way, remove the obstacles, and unleash private builders to do what they do best. And that leaves us right here with this one fundamental question. To solve a crisis this massive, do you choose a state-managed future or a return to a market-driven past? It's the ultimate choice between intervention and deregulation. And the path California takes, it's not just going to build houses. It's going to define what that California dream actually is for generations to come.